the option to leave the meeting or something like that. So I think maybe you're here today to solve a problem. I mean, that might be a specific challenge you have in your business. It might simply be because you want to enhance your learning and understanding. And today I'm going to show you how to grow your business by finding and securing new customers. And if that's something you'd like help with, I can explain a bit later about, how you could work with me. But there are so many facets to finding and securing customers. And today we're going to focus on the impact of your brand, the impact your brand has on your business. Sorry, just somebody coming into the. So like I said, there's so many facets to building, to growing your business, and we're going to focus on your brand today.
Policymakers, will we?
Hi, Ed. Do you mind just muting your mic because I can hear a background. Thank you. At future Agri-Tech marketing masterminds, we'll look at and explore other aspects of growing a business. Now, arguably, I would argue, or I'd say that agriculture is probably the most important industry in the world. I guess I might be preaching to the converted here. And I don't want to get too political, but it does seem that many of the wealthier governments around the world are deprioritizing our sector. And yet, according to the United Nations, every day around the world, 25,000 people die from hunger and related causes. That includes 10,000 children. That doesn't feel right to me. So, and it's estimated another 854 million people worldwide are undernourished, and high food prices may drive another 100 million people into poverty and hunger. So farmers everywhere have a really important role to play, even if in the shorter term, they're focused through financial pressures to accept non-food producing schemes. But it's clear that we need to drive improvement and efficiencies in farming, and Agri-Tech has a massive part to play in this. It's unlikely that any single Agri-Tech solution is going to revolutionize food production. It's more likely it will move the needle, 1 degree. But multiple innovations, each shifting the needle by 1 degree, has a powerful compound effect. Of course, the challenge here is farmers don't know what they don't know. Does that make sense? So how can we firstly make them aware of innovations and then help them to understand how they beneficially impact them? After all, if you ask farmers in the 1880s what would help them plough more land, they'd have probably said more horses. A set of horses could plough about an acre a day. They had no concept that 100 years later, a tractor with a plough could plough 30 acres in a day. It's just not. It wasn't entering into their mind. So that's why building a powerful brand in the agri-tech sector is so important. We need to attract, engage, educate, and motivate your audience. So very quickly, the concept behind the Agri-Tech Marketing Mastermind is to share ideas, get creative, explore what's worked and not worked for ourselves. This is definitely an interactive session. So assuming, no one is still in their pajamas, get those cameras on. I want to keep it informal. This is not about me doing, thanks, Ed. This is not about me doing death by PowerPoint. There's actually no PowerPoints involved. In the future, we might use the odd slide. And in this room, I know that there's a wide range of marketing experience and knowledge. But I believe we're all students and we're all teachers. You could argue the true test of learning something is being able to teach it to others. So I hope we can all help each other. I mean, it's possible you might perceive you have a competitor in the room. How much more powerful is collaboration than competition? So the concept is to introduce Agri-Tech marketing topic each session and have a short talk about it. Then I like to open up the room to everyone, and perhaps you've got a challenge or a share or a comment that you would like to make, and maybe we can have each other's input into that. Like I say, I want to keep it interactive. I'm sat here, as the expert, but no, we've all got levels of expertise I'd love you to bring to the room. I'm very open to feedback and thoughts and ideas, how the Agri-Tech Marketing Mastermind can progress and how it can help you. The reality is, hearing other people's challenges and sharing those, that all helps us to learn as well. Your feedback, after all, feedback is the breakfast of champions. So yeah, lay it on thick. I do believe in keeping to time, so we will be finished by 10:45. I mean, I will hang around afterwards just for a little while if anyone has any final comments and questions that they'd rather do without other people. So you might be wondering what gives me the right to talk about branding, marketing, and growing business in the agri sector. Well, very, very briefly, all I ever wanted to be was a farmer. And at the age of 9, I was sent off to Auntie Jean's farm for a week, and I fell in love. I mean, with the farm, and Auntie Jean was quite cool too. And so I ended up going to agricultural college down in Sussex, a place called Plumpton. 3 fantastic years of my life. Ended up driving big green tractors with yellow wheels, living my dream. But then sat ploughing one Sunday afternoon, persuaded by my fiance that farming wasn't going to provide the lifestyle expected of me. Very naively, we set up a design and marketing business based on her skills as a graphic designer. Go figure, farming to marketing. So I very quickly had to learn about growing businesses, and did that for a long time. And then, unfortunately, sort of 2016, she decided not to be married to me any longer. And so actually, I decided to go and live my dream again for a little while. So I actually went to work on a farm on the Isle of Man. I then went to New Zealand as an agricultural spraying contractor, and then returning to UK, realised how cold and wet it is in the winter here, which I haven't sort of experienced for a long time. So actually, I realised I could blend my passion for farming and food with my skills in marketing and growing businesses. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of background why I'm sat here spouting on at you. Oh, so today's topic is from promise to profit. That's about aligning your brand values with farmer needs in agri-tech. And you might start by questioning the value of building a brand. Do brands really impact on farmers? I mean, if you asked many farmers about branding, they might just possibly say it's not important to them. And yet they make buying decisions daily, not just on price, but maybe unaware how they've been influenced by a brand in reaching their buying decision. I mean, great example, John Deere tractors, despite being perceived as one of the most expensive makes of tractor to buy, they're the biggest selling brand of tractor in the UK with 30% of the market. Compare that to other brands, Case New Holland, which has 26% market share between their 2 brands. So, John Deere, pretty significant, and yet similar spec John Deere to a New Holland, probably 20, 30,000 pounds difference in price. And much of the foundations of John Deere's brand took place in the 1980s and 1990s when they made their tractors aspirational to operate, especially to younger people, and securing that space in people's hearts and minds of their audience. That plays a significant role in generating revenue of over $61 billion in 2023. I mean, it's a staggering business, isn't it? And I would suggest your brand contributes significantly to your business in 3 ways. Firstly, your brand is your promise. What is your point, and why should your audience care? I would also argue your brand is your profit. It's what differentiates you and reduces price competition. Incidentally, John Deere's profit in 2023 was $10 billion. It's just incredible, isn't it? Who would write 1% of that, eh? Your brand is your potential. So into the future, your brand, it's your goodwill. It's what you create. It's how you build your loyalty. And that's how you get to build your repeat customers. So I mean, in this dynamic world of agricultural technology, the promise of innovation often comes hand in hand with the challenge of aligning brand values with the genuine needs of farmers. As technology continues to revolutionize farming practices, it becomes increasingly crucial for agri-tech brands to not only deliver on their promise, but also to deeply understand and cater to the unique requirements of the farming community. And I mean, agri-tech's not just about introducing cutting-edge technology into agriculture. It's about fundamentally transforming the way farming is done, from precision farming, smart irrigation, although I'm not sure we need too much of that sort of stuff at the moment, and to drone technology, data analytics, and the possibilities seem endless. However, the success of innovations hinges on more than just technological prowess. It requires a deep appreciation of the challenge faced by farmers on the ground. So your brand is about positioning yourself as a person or business of influence. Perhaps we need to define influence. Would it be okay to say it's leading someone to do what you want them to do whilst they believe it was their decision? And then they thank you for your help too. So in other words, farmers don't like to be sold to, but they do like to buy. So let's help farmers make the best buying decisions. Now, sometimes that might be a decision made against you, but I think as brand builders, it's about finding the right people and delivering the right things to them. So has anyone come across Dr. Robert Cialdini? Try saying that with your teeth in. He wrote a book called The Six Laws of Influence. Dr. Cialdini is a professor of psychology and marketing, and he proposes that the most influential of us out there do the following. I mean, firstly, they like other people. So as a brand, your value's got to you got to like other people. I mean, I guess there are a few brands out there, Ryanair, who take a different approach. They don't seem to like their customers at all, but that's quite a unique situation. Secondly, we believe in reciprocity. So actually, we give generously. We give without condition, and yet what happens is, I mean, I don't want to get too woo, but the universe pays it back. And that's part of building your position of influence. Those who build powerful brands and are influential, they're committed and consistent in their actions. How you do anything is how you do everything. Social proof. It's all very well, saying that I'm great. Actually, it's more important what other people say. So having that social proof where people are actually reinforcing your abilities. An air of authority. If you're going to have an influential brand, it needs to have an authority about it. Maybe you're considered an expert in your field. You know everything. Personally, I prefer talking about being a specialist. I don't know. Does a specialist infer that you're still willing to learn? And I think we all need to be continuing our learning. And sort of finally, from Dr. Cialdini, you have a degree of scarcity. Busy people attract. Quiet people tend to repel. So have a think about how those can be integrated into building your brand values, and to make it to position you as an influence. And your brand values are the guiding principles that define a company's identity and shape its interaction with its stakeholders. In the context of agri-tech, aligning brand values with farmer needs goes beyond mere marketing. It's about establishing a genuine connection and building trust. I mean, when farmers see that a brand's value resonates with their own, they're more likely to engage with that brand and adopt its solution. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've been with someone where your values have clashed, and that doesn't make a sustainable relationship. It might be in a job, where, and I'm not saying their values are wrong and yours are right. It's just a difference. So we need to align with people who hold similar values. And trust is the cornerstone of any successful relationship. And the relationship between agri-tech brands and farmers is no exception. Farmers need to trust the technologies they invest in will deliver tangible benefits and improve their livelihoods. And they are all under pressure at the moment. The trust is built not only through the performance of the technology, but also through the alignment of the brand values with the farmer needs. Oh, I mean, to align brand values with farmer needs, agri-tech brands must first understand those needs intimately. And, this requires active engagement with farmers, listening to the concerns, involving them in the co-creation of solutions. I mean, whether it's increasing crop yields or reducing water usage or improving efficiency, agri-tech brands must demonstrate a genuine commitment to addressing the most pressing challenges faced by farmers. And this is where one of the biggest challenges in building a brand raises its head. It's not what you believe about your brand, it's what your audience believes. And perceptions are reality. And how you think you are perceived, how you would like to be perceived, and how you are perceived, I would suggest are three very different things. You need to be in control of how you are perceived. You need to be in control of your brand. You need to be in control of the way it's delivered to your audience. So in addition to understanding and addressing farmer needs, agri-tech brands must also be transparent and accountable in their actions. This means being upfront about the limitations of technology, because you can't be all things to all people. You've got to acknowledge failures, and actually those failures are often a very important part of establishing that credibility. If you've not failed, you've probably not tried. And continuously you need to strive to improve. And so, by fostering a culture of transparency and accountability, brands can build long-lasting relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Now, ultimately, aligning brand values with farmer needs is not just a moral imperative, it's also a path to profit. And after all, that's what we're in business for. And so when farmers trust that brand and believe in its values, they're more likely to become loyal customers and advocates for that brand. Now, moreover, by truly understanding and addressing farmer needs, agri-tech brands can develop more effective solutions that drive real value for farmers, leading to increased adoption and revenue. So, I mean, in this fast-paced world of agri-tech, the journey from promise to profit begins with a deep understanding of farmer needs and commitment to aligning brand values accordingly. By building trust, addressing challenges, and fostering transparency, agri-tech brands can forge meaningful connections with farmers and create solutions that drive both social impact and financial success. So in the end, it's not just about selling a product, it's about building a partnership based on shared values and mutual benefit. Your brand should capture a space in the hearts and minds of your customers and engage your audience emotionally so you change the way they feel. I mean, if you'd like to explore building an effective and powerful brand, or indeed, any challenges around growing your business, I'm happy to have a strategy call with you, to look at how to drive business performance. And I've put my calendar link in the chat box, so you can just click on it and find a convenient spot for yourselves. So, I mean, really, that's sort of, I've gone blurb, haven't I? And I don't like going blurb. I would like to now sort of invite you to join in. I mean, has anybody is there anything that's particularly struck you from what I've said? Has anyone got any challenges around what I've said? I'm happy to get into an argument. I'm taking a fight. But
that's me. I think you hit the nail on the head with talking about farmers' needs. Where I think a lot of people, I think really inside agriculture, a lot of businesses, not just agri-tech, they often just tell you what they do and not tell you how that'll help the farmer.
Yeah.
Where just use an example of milk powder, where a lot of the companies, they'll tell you, it's got this protein content, it's got this skim, it's got this this oil content, but they don't actually tell you what does that mean to the farmer. What's that going to do? And that's where I think, you really hit the nail on the coffin there for me.
So, Ed, sorry, I know I'm not trying to embarrass you by saying you were a bit late. So before you came on, we had a quick introduction round. Do you mind just saying who you are and where you're from?
So I'm Ed. I'm the market manager for Farm Deals. We're if you don't know who we are, we're a digital buying group.
That's right. Yeah, aligned with the Farming Forum.
We started by the same people who started the forum. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks, Ed. Is there anybody else I mean, Sue, is there anything challenges wise that you're facing, or anything that's provoked you there? Well, you've got to say.
It's Doug, and in terms of everything you kind of like outlined this morning, is definitely in terms of definitely in tune in terms of what we're building on. I mean, our business is 140 years old, and we're moving from very traditional to quite high tech in quite a short period of time over the last 3 years. So yeah, there's I suppose our challenge is to ensuring our story gets out there in terms of how we can help not only our current customer base, but new customers too.
Okay, thanks, Sue. I don't know if anybody, I think there's a little problem with your microphone. I've sort of got the gist of what you're saying, but it's coming across quite muffled. I don't know if anybody else experienced that, or whether it's just my old ears going a little bit sensitive. But thank you, Sue. It might be just worth getting checked out. Thanks, Ray. What about you? I mean, you shared a fascinating journey in your introduction. I obviously, I mean, you talked about a couple of things, but olive oil production. I mean, that that's sort of like the consumer end, I guess, where brand is so important. But you know, you talk about other bits and pieces. Any thoughts?
Yeah, sorry about the background noise. Yeah, we naturally our yield is has been fluctuating over the last 2.5 decades, and so on the high end, you know, we've produced anywhere between 12 and 15,000 litres, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. That's not a lot of output at all. And we've always been somewhat specialised in supplying local markets and local direct to consumer in Sicily and southern Italy. And it's all word of mouth. And so our branding journey has been extraordinarily long in the sense that we have no brand, and that is not something that my Sicilian in-laws care too much about, right? You know, bottling, packaging, labeling, these things are irrespective of quality, right? So, you know, in the region that we produce, the people that buy from us know that our quality is top notch. Now, in the intervening years, over the 25 years, I've become a qualified olive oil sommelier, and I sit on a bunch of international olive panel judging quality panels. And I'm saying that to you just because the juxtaposition between being a farmer on the ground that is creating yield and selling direct to consumer versus the highfalutin markets of New York, Paris, and London with their ideas of trying to create a wine-like vocabulary and marketplace for the product. So, you know, my experience goes from one extreme end to the other extreme end. So a lot of what you said, Daniel, resonates with me in terms of branding and whatnot. I'm working with a number of major software developers. Again, this is my other world, and by that I'm talking about fairly large global white label software developers that work in tool creation in Agri-Tech, right? So a lot of those solutions that you may have come across, you know, in dairy, in you know, vegetable and green, you know, hydroponic style, you know, stackable farms. I have been working with a number of these tech organizations, certainly during pandemic and post-pandemic, to wrap my head around the kind of solutions that are out there from a, you know, what is the software, services of software solutions, and how they integrate with farms. That is, again, an extreme, because in the olive oil sector, outside of the intensive farming in Spain, very little penetration into the market, very little understanding of the space. So I found it, again, everybody understand that my sector is quite narrow and quite specialized, but I have found everything that you've said, Daniel, has been the case. The big software developers, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, LATAM, I'm talking about the big software development, third-party software development companies that develop the tools that are the major top 5 Agri-Tech open source platforms that are sold on to farms and farming. There is little to zero olive oil speciality, right? You know, just in terms of transferable skills, transferable data sets, etc. So I found it quite easy to walk into a number of fairly large bespoke software development firms. Again, please, you know, that is also my world on one side. So I can talk that language where I am looking to try and develop. So there's things that you're saying, Daniel, that very much resonate with my experience, you know, in terms of brand alignment, not just from the software and what that impact is going to be on the farmer, but then also being a farmer, somebody who climbs trees and picks by hand, you know, and I've not got any, you know, deliberately so we don't have any machines, and that's not because we're trying to be hugging trees. It is just because our orchards are on the side of a volcano, you know, so this is, you know, machines can't go where our olives grow. Fact, right? So you know, again, that's not because I'm trying to be some kind of British-based eco warrior. That's just, you know, my wife's family have been making olive oil for 500 years, and that's the way they've always done it, and the machines don't go there. So how does one then bring something that is so purist in an agricultural sense with a, you know, an extraordinary depth of, you know, artisanal technique, and how does then bring and align, you know, artificial intelligence within that? So, you know, I'm faced with the ridicule of the Sicilian farmer. You know, it's taken me 25 years. As you can see, I'm, you know, an Indian born in the UK. So there's always been an element of like, what the bloody hell does he think he's doing? You know, but, you know, 25 years later, I've been somewhat accepted as the crazy Indian that makes olive oil with that family. But, you know, here I am saying, how does one use the most basic of AI tooling, such as when does one pick? You know, just the, you know, like the basics of farming, which is, you know, when does one pick one's crop? So I'm not even talking about massive data analysis. I'm just going, how do I use technology to better inform when we start picking? Now, I want to be clear with everyone. For instance, that's been a big education, right? And there's a lot of people in Sicily who are not accepting. To your point about culture, I absolutely endorsing what you're saying, and I appreciate I'm being quite extreme. But you know, when everyone in Sicily picks olives after the Day of the Dead, which is November the 3rd, and when you ask everyone why do you do that, they just go because we do. You know, and you just sort of think, okay, but is that the optimal time to pick with climate change? And if you use these weather tools, you know, maybe we need to start picking a little earlier. So to give you an example, for the last 2 years, I've started to pick, because of these digital tools, I've started to pick early October, which is a good 2 to 3 weeks in advance of everyone else, because everybody else is just culturally, we pick after November the 3rd. Now, this year was the first year that lots of other people in the valley have gone, we're just going to follow what Ray's doing. You know, because our yields are better, right? We're making more oil. Right?
So Ray, I mean, in effect, you've created a brand around Ray's new way to manage olives, maybe without actually realizing it. You've become a person of influence. I mean, the other thing you talked about is, you know, how your family, you know, don't understand branding, but actually the reality is they have got a brand because actually people are prepared to buy it and they understand it. It might not be they're in control of the brand, and they might have arrived there by accident.
I think that's very perceptive. The brand is that there isn't a brand.
There's a great story behind it, and every great brand has a great story. Has anybody else though experienced sort of these traditional you know, obviously Ray, it's not UK, but that's fine. I love the fact that you've joined us, and but in the UK, of course, we've got these traditional farmers, you know, and there's a perception they've got a bit of baler twine, you know, to hold up the pants, and of course we've got some really progressive people as well, and you know, Ed, I guess Farm Deals is at the progressive end, because you're sort of like saying we're a buying group, we can actually help you, you know, with your purchasing in an efficient manner using technology. And yet we've still got a huge chunk of the industry which is somewhat behind the times. I mean, how are you sort of dealing with that?
So I actually had a bit of an argument about this the other day, and I'd argue that it's not an issue because, just use my example, my uncle, he's lifelong dairy farmer. We farm up near Preston. And 20 years ago, probably about 15 years ago, I had to help him send emails. He couldn't send any emails, really not tech savvy. And then he took me around yesterday, came in on the farm for about 4 months because I've moved to the other side of Preston. And he was showing me this full automated feeding system. This is showing me through his database of cattle, through the tags, showing all the milk yields, all registered now. And this is your classic farmer. If you drew a farmer, you draw my uncle. He's overalls, pitchfork, baling twine rounded jeans. So I'd argue that even though we do have this big representation of the industry, a stereotype of, oh, you don't understand them, they're speaking a really funny accent, that they don't use technology, they're still part Nokias. I think farmers nowadays have to use that technology, so they are savvy to it. Like, it's rare. I don't think I've actually ever spoke to a member who's not been able to use a platform really, because I think whether COVID also pushed that along with everyone using the NHS app, I've seen that a lot with the QR code. I think we are now in a time of agriculture where everyone's catched up. Everyone's got an app on the phone. Everyone's using it. I mean, I think the real issue is making it easy to use for Agri-Tech. I think there's a lot of Agri-Tech companies who, for a time, it was very difficult to use their apps, but then they'll sort of blame it on that stereotype, where I think that is wrong, because my granddad, he's 90 now, and he uses Facebook. So if he can use Facebook, it's a usability issue, isn't it? It's not the fact that they can't use technology. It's the fact that you need to make your app easy to use for them, and that's my 2 pence on that matter. Anyway, feel free to tell me I'm really wrong with that, but I've never come across a member out of our 3,100 members who say, "Oh, your app's hard to use."
Yeah, so actually, I suppose, sorry, I really appreciate other people's points of view, so I don't want to dominate, but just you talk about 3,100 members, which is brilliant. But I mean, how many farmers are there in the UK? It's a very arbitrary figure, but maybe 80,000. So whilst you've done really well getting 3,100, there's a huge chunk there who have yet to sort of grasp it. And I think that's often one of the challenges. When I said, you don't know what you don't know, you live in a vacuum, don't you? And it's not until you disrupt that, until you can get somebody, understand someone's pain points and actually say, well, there is another way forward. But unless they're listening, it doesn't matter what you say to them, does it?
No, yeah, exactly.
Has anyone else Nick? So you've talked. You're. I think you said you've sort of got a background in agri-tech, but you're moving over to marketing. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say probably. I think I've noticed from talking to various growers of different types is because obviously their profit margins are like not fragile, but like very weather dependent. Like risk is something they don't necessarily want to take on something new that they don't understand how it works, which is totally fair enough. And from talking to them, because we do a lot of work with like biocontrol things, and generally our thing is bringing new things into the market that weren't there before. And most questions I get from them are just bombardment of, well, how does that work? And the impression I'm getting is just no one's really taking the time to explain to growers how the new things actually do work. So they don't trust them, so they don't want to use them. Which just makes sense to me, but it's clearly quite a big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But to get to actually explain something to someone, you've got to engage them first, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to pique their interest. And I mean, Roy, you obviously we've known each other a few years, and you've gone from a big corporate organization, haven't you, to was it fair to say a more entrepreneurial sort of
It's big, yeah.
It's big, but so I mean, you're probably experiencing both sides at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because when you're in the big corporates, they've already got their brand and people already know them. So in a way, the hard work's been taken out of it. I think this job now is a lot more difficult because I've really got to build something from the bottom up. There isn't really a tone of voice. There isn't really a known logo. Even the company name, I question whether there's a couple of the businesses that are called some quite strange things. So and finding product names, all that kind of stuff.
You're up, aren't you? I mean,
yeah.
They maybe rename their company. Well, they're going to love that, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I brought it up because it's a couple of sort of like weird names. But we went to a conference last week, and it was kind of like a Dragon's Den type presentation. There was I can't remember what the lady's name was now, Deborah Meaden, doing presentations, and some like business psychologists and stuff. They're all really well-known people on the circuit, really respected people, psychologists and things. And one of their big take-home things for branding, tone of voice, sort of like listening to customers, engagement, was something along the lines of, in any film or book, there's the hero, like Harry Potter, but then there's also the like the influencer, the guide. So that might be his friends, Hermione, Ron, whoever else. And they were basically saying that all businesses, we're all in the same business, we're all competing against each other. And it's about becoming the guide and not the hero. So that's the way then you're building the trust, you know, you've got more engagement. It's all about building the trust. And they said something along the lines of, you know, you're not competing with other businesses for the business, you're competing for the trust. And then once you've got the trust, it's the relationship, the repeat business, all that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was a nice thing from Promise to Profit. It was all about the promise really of how you can help them, what the benefits are of your products over someone else's, what benefit it is to the user or the buyer to buy that product.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting.
And I think you've just said something absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to plagiarize it with pleasure. Become the guide, not the hero.
Yeah, I've totally stolen that from the conference. So.
Well, I don't think many of us invent very much these days, do we? It tends to be borrowed from somewhere else. And but I thought that was, and as marketeers, isn't that our job? And actually, let's make the customer the hero. Let's guide them. It's it's absolutely brilliant. Well, look, I'm conscious of time. I promised to finish on time because I know that we run diaries, and it's just respectful to not keep people hanging on thinking, "Good blimey, he's rabbiting on a bit more." So I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to rob that as my takeaway. Roy, become the guide, not the hero. Has anybody else got one little sentence? Just keep it really short of a takeaway that they've got from today. Anybody like to add one? I'm going to put somebody under pressure. Ed.
I do really like that, to be fair, as well. I'm going to pinch that, Roy. Cheers. It is just it, but I suppose that ties in what I said at the start with rather than just talking about yourself, talk about how it will help them. So instead of saying, I'm going to use milk powder as another example, this has got loads of protein, loads of fats. It's going to be, it's like that's what it is. Say what it's going to do to the farmers, like say weight gain. It's going to do really good weight gain. Or I suppose if you want to do it to Agri-Tech, like weather systems or something, you instead of saying, oh, detect weather, detect this, go look, say something like discover spraying windows, discover perfect harvest windows, and it's I think that's the core sort of area of Agri-Tech where everyone needs to focus on, really. So yeah, great point there, Roy.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. So look, I mean, within the group here, you know, if there's connections that you think would help you, let me know and I'll connect you up. I mean, Roy and Ed, I don't know if you know each other, but obviously Ed has a channel direct to farmers, a buying channel. It might be worth a conversation to see actually if there's something there. Likewise, you know, so you know, reach out, let me know, and I'll connect you up, assuming the other person wants to talk to you, you know. Remember, if you want to have a chat with me, you can book yourself a one-to-one call. We can have a deeper conversation about, you know, your branding, your marketing, how do you grow your business. Like I say, my calendar link's in the chat box. I mean, thank you for joining in this Agri-Tech Marketing Mastermind Zoom. Like I say, I'm going to hang around for a few minutes just if anybody's got anything else to say. Otherwise, look at that, 10:44. How's that? So it really is time to say goodbye. And remember, hope is not a strategy. And goodbye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Nick. Hello, Sue. You're right. I can't hear you now.
No, I'm trying to leave.
Have you done something with your microphone because it's changed?
Yeah, we use Teams in the business, so we don't use Zoom. So yeah, I literally just need to tick a little box, and it went into my ear. Okay, so thanks for that.
It was lovely to see you.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello. Hello.
Hi, Dan. I think you should stop recording. So
well, that's a good point. I always forget.